like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast. And for Dave,
For me, it's the Dark and Jung.
thank you, Dave. And for myself, the Dark people in beautiful Pemel, we're here, and we like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. And Chopper Dave is coming up with the traffic report in just 10 minutes. No, that's not going to happen. No weather either. That's not the kind of station we are. Yeah, look, good to have you back, Dave. I hope you had some fun on Tuesday doing
Rehearsals, yeah, it was good fun.
doing a secret, your manly. I tell everybody you're doing a manly thing with deep voices and a lot of harumphing. Harumph.
Gee, that
Harumph.
sound, it does sound kind of wrong when you put it that way.
No, I'm not
And
putting it anywhere, man. I don't know what you're saying.
And it's not the man cave either, because we have
Yeah, sure,
man
sure.
sheds. We have man sheds
Sure.
here for that do woodworking and stuff like that. No, it's all right. So yeah, no, I had that. I got home pretty late, so I just missed the show's ending. I didn't even get to the start, so
No, it's all
it's
good.
going to
It's all
happen
good.
for about a year.
Oh, it was fun. We had fun. But well, I know a lot of people are not having fun right now. I can tell you, if it's not a
We can
fire,
start naming the places now. It's not. You're not even narrowing it down.
no, not really. Now, this is actually pretty catastrophic. What happened in Libya? Those floods.
Well, that was a
No,
damn failure.
They think 20,000 people could have been killed there.
Mhm.
20,000 people. Now, the dam failure only occurred, of course, because of massive rainfalls,
That's
etc. Well, it's a good thing that there's nothing happening at all in the world. But look, fire, flood, storms, massive storms, in fact, all kinds of storms, earthquakes in places that we normally don't have earthquakes, which I find interesting, to say the least.
We'll probably see Moroccan death toll double or triple,
Yeah,
because there's
Yeah.
places that are cut off you can't even get to. Not even rescuers can get to.
Oh, look, Dave is right. I mean, this is terribly mountainous terrain. I mean, it is really hard to get around. And now we got Hurricane Lee, I believe, taking aim at the U.S. and Canada on the East Coast. On the East Coast.
Yeah, it'll probably swing up all the way up to Maine,
Yeah.
but there might be a 2 or 3 meter, maybe 5 meter storm surge on it. It just depends. It'll hook left into the. It won't side swipe, but it'll hook left and hit it dead on up there. So, but there's another one. There's a little tiny one in the middle of the Atlantic, and then there's a whole nother one that's getting built right now off Africa.
And
So-
it's actually funny. It's quite early in many ways, or late, as the case it may be. But I can't help but think, Dave. Nobody's talking about Lahaina anymore. Obviously, it's like the devastating floods in Libya and a horrific earthquake in Morocco and whatnot.
Mhm.
Lahaina sort of, it was sort of yesterday's news. Just when things started getting interesting, the blue houses and the blue cars and
That's
the blue
right.
everything. So I'm going to put it to you this way. In order to not talk about one thing anymore, right, we just have to talk about something that's even worse and bigger.
Mm.
Right? And I think, now the more I think about it, because this is all about history and geography as well. Okay, it's all linked. And like I said, Lahaina was the original Hawaiian, I guess, capital before the white people
That's
came.
right.
And also beautiful. Not just that from a historical point of view, but also very beautiful. In fact, extremely picturesque, with I would say significant real estate value in the hands of people that weren't rich, as it were. Now this might sound crazy, and people just don't see the callousness that the parasites have. But I mean, if I wanted something, I mean, this is a story as old as time. If you're in my way, I'll find a way around you, under you, over you, or through you.
Mm.
And that's how it's always been. you look at, actually, it doesn't even matter what you look at. You look at anything really in history where somebody was in the way of someone else. And look, if you're not strong enough to stay in the way, then you're going to be gone. And that's what happened invariably every single time. There has never been a time that I know when it came to land grabs or resource grabs or power grabs or anything like that, where the person that was grabbing backed off because it was the wrong thing to do. Gee. I just had like a road to Damascus moment, so maybe I shouldn't do this. I'll just become a good Christian or whatever.
It's time to turn a new cheek. Is that what's it called?
Turn all the cheeks.
Turn all of them, yeah.
Turn the cheeks and leaves and just let bygones float under the river. I think we've violated all proverbs now. but no, seriously.
That's what I meant.
Seriously though, and especially, see, the olden days before tech was as advanced as it is today, people had to resort to setting fires or sending thugs. To convince you, there you go, to persuade you to seek your fortunes elsewhere, ideally not in my way. All right.
Get the void, Nick.
Yeah, and there has never really been a movement ever to stop that. The biggest revolts against that kind of parasitic lifestyle historically speaking, that we know of, were the Roman slave revolts, where hundreds of thousands of slaves would try to fight the might of the Roman Empire and lost. Invariably, they all lost. Two successful places that we know of are, number one is France, of course, for a short time, sort of. There was a successful revolution. Then it just all went the way of the dodo, and of course Haiti. And again, like I keep harping on about this, but they're still being punished for challenging the masters, challenging the masters, as it were, right? The parasites. But other than that, Dave, I'll be honest with you, and I'm a student of history, and I really like history. And
that's the truth. He is.
And I can't think of another time when the people permanently changed the game. Even the American Revolution, which started out, Bacon calls it the New Atlantis, right? Having this ideal utopian kind of view of America. Yeah. And look, America for a time, and I mean this, for a time, it harbored a nice dream. Now, bear in mind, though, that for, about 80 years of its existence, it was okay with slavery. Okay? So that didn't change the dial very much. But slavery was abolished, officially at least. Honestly, I think in some people's minds, it's a thing. It's a thing, and probably will never go away. But at least in the 1860s, it finally came to an end. And I think for a short time there, America had something. I really do. Was it perfect? No, of course not. Of course it wasn't perfect. But it wasn't yet consumed by the great Leviathan, the greed of the parasites. The greed of the parasites. And you look around today, nobody is standing up to the parasites. We have these enemy motifs, North Korea and Russia and China. Right? Now, I've spent some time in China. China doesn't need us. China doesn't have any need for any of us. I can tell you that right now. It's quite something. China is an amazing country from the point of view of what they have accomplished over the last 50 or so years. And that was only possible, of course, because they could have a long-term vision, something that in the West we unfortunately lack, because here it's more important to fight for power than use that power to actually advance the people's agenda. Whereas in China, once you get to the top, you're most likely to stay there until you die. That's what's going to happen.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you, Mackie. What I was doing was fighting for power.
Nice. Nice. Look, Russia and North Korea. Well, North Korea is a bit more volatile and I think is mismanaged, but that's neither here nor there. And Russia was pillaged after the fall of communism, pillaged by the gangsters, pillaged by the politicians, and now we have a man that grew up in, I guess, in the heyday of the Soviet Empire, trying to rekindle.
Oh yes,
its glory.
All the Englands. So, do you know North Korea is now selling mortar shells and whatever they are, ammunition to Russia for the Ukraine war?
They're using the same kinds of guns, so it makes it a bit easier.
I'm sorry, it's not a war. It's a special military operation.
It's a special. Yeah, come on, Dave, get with the program. You want to start your car in the morning, don't you?
But I do actually. Not doing that again.
Good luck.
Yeah, so yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. I'm going to stand in a city with an A-frame, saying it says the special military operation. That's what I'm going to do. No, I'm not doing that at all. So, not even at all. But look, it's a boon to North Korea, who doesn't make that much money anywhere, right? So it's getting to sell weapons to Russia. Who knew?
What?
Who knew that was ever going to be a thing? If anyone in the chat room had that on your bingo card, let me know. Someone yell bingo. Because I didn't have it. It wasn't on mine.
Oh, that's gold.
I didn't have... What country flooded because of the dam? Libya?
Libya, correct.
I didn't have that either.
And you know what? This is now equal opportunity catastrophism. So everybody is going to get their fair share. Now, I'll tell you what worries me, and we've seen this already. But the summer melts of the glaciers, right? Which are, in fact, becoming less and less because there's less of a glacier.
That's right.
So we're going to see a lot of rivers drying up. Now, having said that, that oddly enough also means there's more moisture in the air because it evaporates, which will lead to greater precipitation, but not in the areas where it evaporated.
That's right.
The water will carry elsewhere, and what they're predicting, I think we spoke about this before, sub-Saharan Africa and Saharan Africa, in fact, they see a great greening. They see like the luscious, wetlands coming back. Yeah. The entire Sahel zone is going to be green again, and maybe sooner than we think in looking at the world. Whereas large parts of Spain and southern Italy and potentially Greece will turn into desert. And I don't mean become very dry. I mean turn into desert. Okay? And they're also worried about the Gulf Stream. Not the jet, but the actual Gulf Stream that sort of provides a very moderate climate for Europe. And they're fearing it might, cease to exist, which of course could lead to extremely cold temperatures for most of Europe again. So just to be clear, right? Nothing is changing, Dave. Everything is just fine. Just wear your black, no panic sunglasses, and don't worry about a thing. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm gonna take the message stick and run with that as a segue, because if you're watching this on YouTube, then I'm just going to share my middle screen, and for Meki, I can't do it. I've got a news story here. It is from News Nation, who broke the David Grush story.
Yeah.
And this is from Mexico. Have decided to show the world. It's probably time. But they would have done that in Spanish. It's probably time to show everyone the aliens we have. So they have these two. They look like, what do you call it? Desiccated. They have.
Oh, holy shit! That I saw. He sent me a message.
They're dried.
Yeah.
Aliens. I don't know what they are, but that's sort of apparent.
Well, they're mummified. They look mummified anyway, right?
Yeah. Look, if you put anyone in a drying kiln. That's what they kind of look like, right? So devoid of all moisture. And I have to say, the X-rays show that they have a skeletal structure beneath it, and it's pretty interesting. But at the same time as this story broke, the main, what do you call it, lower third in TV talk, the banner across, not the crawl, but the banner, actually says NASA to release UAP report tomorrow.
You think they want to steal their thunder?
So Mexico's showing that, the news story is Mexico is showing these dried aliens they have, and the main banner at the bottom actually says NASA to release UAP report tomorrow. Remember, because NASA isn't allowed to talk to aliens or anything, so they're going to come up with zilch.
Aliens? What aliens? We need another 7 astronauts. Silence. To be clear, these desiccated, mummified figures are completely humanoid, in that they are completely resembling our shape.
Bipedal.
Maybe less fingers. Bipedal, 2 arms. There seems to be some kind of a body, of course, a head, face, recognizable eyes, nose, and mouth. And oddly enough, in the desiccated state, it looks like nothing more, the entire head that is, than the alien from E.T.
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah.
The head, completely. And now, having said all of that, I'm going to submit here that, not certain other things withstanding, these are not aliens necessarily. They could very well be some of the people that live underground here, because, like I said before, unless there's a seeding event, in which case, if there were, then fair enough. But if there is, they also don't seem to have any knees. Do you see that? If there were a seeding event, fair enough. But since there may not have been, and if there wasn't a seeding event, then to have life develop on one planet in a different solar system, the same way as it developed in our solar system, is a gazillion to one shot. Because even on this planet, the very first cataclysm, you know what it was caused by? Oxygen. The introduction of oxygen in the atmosphere, which killed off all the first life on the planet, to which oxygen was completely toxic.
That's right.
Believe it or not. In fact, oxygen is no good to you, for you either, because it oxidizes everything in your body and leads to cell death, but that's a whole different story. Point is that we had many extinction level events, and I think it's 5 or 6 from memory, where in the high, like the extinction rate was in the high 90 percentile, right, at each time. So what we have alive today only represents a tiny fraction of all the diverse life that once existed. And look, the truth is, it might still exist in certain pockets elsewhere, because we're finding stuff all the time, right? Now, unless the same extinction events happened elsewhere with the same results, that life,
it starts to get the math on it starts to get a bit tough to understand.
It just does. I'm not betting on it. Yeah, unless there's a seeding event or some law of nature that we are not yet fully aware of.
Well, so. I have to tell people this, and it usually is to their surprise, that all the coal we have on the planet was created at the same time and stopped being created at the same time. And everyone goes, no, come on. No, it's like fossilized trees. I go, yeah, no. But see, why don't we get fossilized trees anymore?
Sorry, Dave. Yep. It's actually not just fossilized trees. I know. I'm getting. Oh, okay, good man.
Right. So I go, well, why don't we get that? Well, we do. We occasionally get trees who end up as petrified wood, but they didn't. And I'll tell you why. And they go, oh, don't. And I go, yeah, well, you know what? There was no fungus that ate or consumed as a food source cellulose. And as we know, trees are made of it. And so what would happen is all these trees would just grow and grow and grow and grow. And when they fell down, they just lay there. There was nothing to eat them. There was no bacteria. There was nothing. And so they lay there for a very long time, ended up getting covered or burnt in a very low oxygen atmosphere, maybe an impactor, right? And then covered, and that's the charcoal in low
Bingo. That's it. Exactly.
in very low oxygen. You can make charcoal out of a wood that would burn to white ash. So it used to be a profession in England, Becky, in Europe. Charcoal makers. You pile up all the wood, and you cover it in earth, and you light a fire in there, and then you block it all up, and it eventually smokes itself out. And what you're left with is coal, which burns longer than the actual wood would. Isn't it crazy?
I know.
So that whole layer of coal was created only because, and that's the segue from the oxygen killing, time when there were other chemicals in the air, and oxygen actually killed all those creatures that survived on those. And this was a very similar event. There was nothing that ate them, and so they sat there as surviving. Isn't it amazing?
And how likely is it that the same events would happen on
Ricky. Not how likely, unlikely.
Yeah, well, it is, right? so that's where where I take issue with extraterrestrials, let's call them, or visitors that are humanoid. Again, if the hypothesis is correct, then there's a perfectly good explanation for that. Simply we've already been out there many, many times, and we are still out there, right? When I'm talking about Homo sapiens more or less, not the surface dwellers, by the way, and everybody else out there, we've seeded the galaxy. Or we were seeded, and it's very popular out there. It's a whole bunch of folk out, all kinds of galactic empires and federations and whatnot. And from the activity that we see on this planet, which is very much out of the way, from a galactic point of view, and I hate to burst everybody's bubble, we are on the outer rim. Yeah. Okay, we are beyond the burbs. We're probably what's referred to as the rural areas of the galaxy. And to have the activity happening that is happening here would mean that there is a lot of activity elsewhere, because we have.
So the inner galaxy area is so bombarded with high energy radiation that it would destroy all DNA unless you were already equipped to be able to survive that environment. It would be very difficult for DNA to start there. But in the outer bands, tremendous. Thick,
but
rife.
See, who says that you need DNA, right?
And what kind of DNA? Do you have like a multi-stranded instead of double helix? Maybe it's multiple strands. Like
instead of carbon-based, it could be silica-based.
Yeah,
I mean, look,
that's right.
we don't know, but the thing is this, right? We are in the boondocks, and we know there's a lot of activity because we've captured it, and finally the government says, "Oh yeah, look, it is something. It isn't nothing. It is something." It's not helping us much, but at least there's that. And then you watch these documentaries and you watch these researchers and you see the footage, and there's oodles of footage. Mm-hmm. There really is. Mm-hmm. And that speaks to an extremely high degree of activity. That's the stuff we see. Never mind the stuff that we cannot see for various reasons. Right? So, as far as I'm concerned, the galaxy, maybe the universe even, is teeming with activity and life as we understand it, as we don't understand it. And I think, again, okay, the President of the United States goes and visits Delhi with his entourage. They all go there, go visit Delhi, capital city of India. A whole bunch of slums on the outskirts of the city, hundreds of thousands of people living in subsistence conditions. Chances are the president is not going to stop at the slum. In fact, Delhi or India might do their best to hide the slum from the international visitors, because it's an embarrassment. No, it doesn't really affect their life terribly much. It's sort of on the outskirts. They don't really care what they do. They haven't got the means or power to really disrupt anything or to matter, right? They don't even vote, so who cares? And yet there they are. And that's us. That's us. We are the slum dwellers on the surface. I watched this documentary yesterday, Dave. This was around underground cities.
Yep.
In fact, it's The Unexplained with William Shatner.
Yes, I remember that.
I love that show.
Yeah.
And then they talked about underground cities. In Turkey, as you know, and other places
France,
here and there.
Yeah.
All of it. And they sort of closed it off with and we made that point when we had the show on this.
Mm-hmm.
That it's actually a lot better to live underground.
Yeah.
In many ways, it's just a better a lifestyle. It's a better way of living. Now, if you lived in large hollows in the earth, and I'm not saying the earth is hollow, I'm not saying that, okay? But we do know there are massive cavern system. There are oceans, we know, inside the earth.
That's true.
You know that, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And bear in mind, the earth has a diameter of, I think it's 8,000 kilometers, thereabouts. I think it's either 6 or 8. I always get the number mixed up. 8. So let's call it 6,000 for argument's sake. 6,000 kilometers, and we've dug about 2-3 kilometers, 4 kilometers, maybe 5.
Mm-hmm.
That's how deep we've gotten, right? There's a whole and during that show, a couple of scientists on as well, some faces you might recognize, and they refreshingly said, "Look, we have no idea what's inside the Earth. We just don't know. Not the faintest clue. We got some theories, but don't really know. All we know is that it must be dynamic because our magnetic field changes all the time, right? It's sort of in flux. It's not static. Our magnetic field is not static. It's always doing something. And they can only be explained by having a dynamic interior of the Earth, whatever that looks like. But yeah, so we are truly at the bottom of the totem pole. As far
Thanks,
as
Fleece.
I'm going to see that. Yeah, that's right. I agree, 100%. 100%. In fact, interestingly enough, I think it's the type 1 civilization that builds Dyson spheres. And for all intents and purposes, you live on the inside of the Dyson sphere. Mm-hmm. You don't live on the outside of the Dyson sphere, right? Because that's just the way the cookie crumbles, okay? And you're right. You're protected from all the hard radiation. You know the stuff that protects from radiation the best? It's stuff. It's rocks.
Yeah,
and earth.
You can just have earth. Yeah, earth will do it. Yeah.
That'll do a good job of protecting from any kind of cosmic or other radiation that's coming your way. So yes, Fleece, thank you very much. Fleece Surf, that is. Thank you very much for your buy-in there. Yeah, and it would make sense. Not only that, you could have an environment that is entirely to your liking. You make your own weather. Okay? Because, I mean, if you're advanced enough to live underground, then you probably control the weather inside as well. There's no storms, no floods necessarily, no unwanted rain or snow or any of that stuff. I mean, why would you ever come to the surface? Maybe to check on the cattle, right? That's why you come up to the surface. And all this. See, I've been thinking about this as well. This came to me recently, Dave. Cattle mutilation. Mm-hmm. And then I thought about little Ralphie and Lisa in school.
I'm learning.
Oh, these berries taste like burning, and they're dissecting a frog or whatever they're doing, But and I'm thinking here, okay, so to be clear, we have learned, or I should say, the aliens, if they're there, should have learned everything they can from both abductions and anal probing, as well as cattle mutilations. They should have learned everything they can by now, considering the thousands, if not tens of thousands of cases all around the world. What if this is just a class?
Yeah, that's right.
Like a biology class. Like, you know how we take turtles or fish or birds and we put trackers on them?
Yeah.
So we take them out of the natural environment, which must be quite traumatic.
It's coming back
and
again, Mickey.
We prod them and we poke them and we put things on them and then we let them go. And they go, what was that? What happened? I don't know. It was a light. It was so bright, and all these funny
You'll
noises.
never believe it, can you? See, these beings are really tall.
depend, look, because I guess for a type 1, or even, certainly type 2 or type 3, even higher types of civilizations, we are less than, we're about probably on the same level as ants are to us. When we look at ants, an ant is an insect, but not only is it an insect, but like bees and termites, it is organized into a social structure.
And driven by chemicals.
Yes, and it is quite a complex society.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they built amazing structures, underground, above ground. They harvest mushrooms. They keep cattle.
Yeah,
they're the only other creature in nature
farms.
that milks.
Mm-hmm.
The little the little green bugs.
Aphids.
They milk them.
Mm-hmm.
Aphids. That's it. They milk them. They protect, like they herd them like cattle. They bring leaves into the colony, and they grow mushrooms underground. They store food. They
compost them, and
yes,
that's right. And they don't just milk the aphid; they have to stimulate it in order to get the nectar.
Yes.
And so they do that too. Like it is us as in micro.
Oh, look, it is astounding. Now, I like to play strategy games, Total War, Age of Empires, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And if you zoom out high enough, and like the latest versions, you can have hundreds, if not thousands, of troops on the field.
Nice.
And you zoom out high enough, they look like ants. They look like ants crawling on, and then you zoom in, you can see the individuals, but when you zoom out again, it looks like a whole bunch of ants crawling.
Queen.
Yeah, but to us, we look down at ants. That's, at someone, on a higher level, if you will, might look at us and go, oh, look at those ants. And then not only that, we only live for like 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
We only live for 100. So if I lived for significantly longer, hundreds of thousands of years, for instance, then I would look at someone who lives for like 100 years, your life is not even consequential.
It's a mayfly, Mackie.
Yeah, you don't even matter. Do you ever think about stepping on an ant? Okay, hopefully you don't deliberately step on ants. Hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to step on one by accident, would you even know? Chances are probably not. Right? And look, and there are cruel people that kick down termite hills and ant colonies and such, and even beehives. But unless you like that, like an angry, psychotic god, then you just wouldn't even care what they do too much. And you only really take notice of an ant if it infringes upon your space. And even then, it's not even a nuisance. It's just an afterthought, if you will.
Unless, of course, you live where I live and you have those ants that can see you and will actively hunt you down independently of each other. Just because I'm getting that guy.
That's a really good point.
Because I remember that you stepped on our ant's nest.
Yes. Now, do we have ants that can see? Are there people out there in the world that are experiencing these things, remember these things, they see these things? And like any other ant, we don't believe them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't see it. And if I don't see it, then clearly you're delusional.
Not real. That's right.
Not real. So sorry, I was just thinking along those lines, right? And
awesome.
And all the things that we have, look at us having things. So, ants have tools. Ants have tools.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And it's, they say, oh, your tool usage is one of the hallmarks of intelligence. Beavers use rocks to open oysters.
That's right.
Okay.
Birds, crows can do that too.
Yes, my friend.
Smash them open, yeah.
100%. So not even primates. We're talking like any animal.
That's right.
Has the ability for tool usage because it makes sense, right? Now, do they manufacture tools? Not necessarily, but they find the right tool for the job, right? So, again, it's...
They haven't dropped the 10 mil, I'll tell you. The 10 mil ratchet is...
nice,
socket is the hardest one. You always lose it.
But I believe in a type 2... In a type 1, type 2, type 3, forget about it. But in a type 1 civilization, you don't have tools. There's no such thing as tools. You just think your stuff into existence. You just even we are not that far from artificial telepathy. Let's call it that, where we can control machinery with our minds, etc. Still has to be translated into computer. Well, the point is this: we are not far away from actually realizing to make our thoughts become manifest. You know, we're not that far now. Anyone that's further ahead of us than well, pretty much anybody else, I guess, in the galaxy, they probably are beyond that already. They can. For them, it's probably it's just as easy as walking, as easy as breathing. Now we don't need anything. We got our Merkaba. A Merkaba is like an energetic body that you have around yourself. It's like your own private space and time ship, right? Sort of like an individual TARDIS, if you will. That's your Merkaba. And our philosophers have theorized about it. Some people seem to have achieved it. I don't know. But the point is this: if you're sufficiently advanced as a civilization, I think you do away with all this stuff, dude. I don't think you need any kind of tools or external equipment. It's just not necessary. And maybe that's why we're sort of lulled into this false sense of security, because we haven't really found anything, right, like that. We haven't really found any mobile phones. We haven't really found this. We haven't found that. We found a few things here and there. I think the stuff that we do find, that's for children or for servants or servers, maybe robots, who knows, right? But I think the adults of that civilization that we share this planet with, they have no need for any of this stuff, right? I think it probably takes their children, a few tens of thousands of years to mature before they can become proper citizens of that kind of civilization. I mean, think of all the learning you would have to do, all the integration, all the things you have to master. And if you have the time to do it, sweet. We barely start to walk before we die.
That's in comparison. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, totally. I'd thought for a long time, if you were an insectoid race, imagine that. An exoskeleton.
Yeah.
Bred really fast, just big hives full of eggs and things like that. Most of it is programmed activity through chemical. Right, in the insect race, there's very little that are autonomous, that can make decisions to do things specifically on their own. The flying insects are more like that as predators. They've got a bigger CPU and some more instruction set and choice. They can make choices. We've got a wasp that will fly and take a fully grown spider, bigger than an American, dollar, out of a web, sting it, and fly it underground and lay its eggs in it. It stings it only to incapacitate it, and then the eggs grow inside it, and the larvae eat the spider, and then fly to freedom. Yeah, afterwards, once they've hatched. I'm astounded. I think if there was a purely insectoid race that was spacefaring, man, I don't think there wouldn't be much stopping them. Of course, Mecca, you point out that we have a huge weakness, and it's we need to sleep. The insect races just have huge, let's call it an underground womb full of eggs.
Yep.
That's what they have. That's the weakness there, if you can get in there. And, acting like drones, as long as you kind of smell like them, you're good to go, right? They don't see you as a threat because they're chemical driven. I think there's some really interesting points in all of that rubbish that I've just said. I have to call it rubbish. Yeah, that's the way I feel today. I've had a really bad day. So, and that's all I see. If there was the tall greys and they weren't insectoid, and they were just the natural evolution of any bipedal creature that's going to become, intelligent enough to be able to create machinery or be around long enough to make all of those inventions, because you're inventing it again. Everything humans have made is probably not the first time it's been made in the universe. We're just discovering it.
Yes, and that's a good point, actually. Stuff is there. It's already. It's not waiting for us, to discover it. It really isn't. It's just doing its thing, and then we come along. Oh, I've discovered it. There it is. No, it's been there all along. Yeah, it's been doing its thing. I find this so. What's the word? Conceited of us to think, oh, the natural world is just waiting for us waiting for us to discover it. Yeah. Oh, when are they coming to discover me, Bob? I don't know, Joe. Just give it a bit of time. Maybe show your red tail in the bush a bit more.
Well, they got pretty close. They walked straight by me. Then they didn't see me.
I mean, yeah, I know, right? It's like, what? Come on, man.
It's
Seriously?
Two electrons. Which slit did you go through? I went through the left one. Oh, I went through the right one.
I went to the middle one. What?
The middle one? I went through none of them.
None of them.
Oh, let's see them work that out.
That's just nuts, right? Look, but that's how we are. I mean, like we see. This is recently. I saw this documentary about these cryptoids, right, or cryptids rather, creatures that science hasn't yet discovered. Science, but people have seen them.
Yep.
And
people have seen, but no qualified scientists have.
No. Where did you graduate? Where? No. If it's not Yale, I don't want to hear it. So there's this creature, especially in the Congo, but elsewhere it's called the Mokele Mbembe, and for all intents and purposes, it looks like a brontosaurus, or Diplodocus, and the locals describe it. There it is, and I always hark back to my most favorite animal on the planet, the coelacanth, which didn't really need to be discovered because it was there the whole 65 million years since its last fossil record. There it is. It's the same fish. It hasn't changed. Look at it. Oh, yeah, that's an anomaly. You see, Mackie? Oh, I see. It's an anomaly. Right. Now the locals, yeah, we've seen it. This is the fish. This is the blah blah fish. It's not good eating. It's too bony. Which fair enough, right? But yeah, it doesn't make good eating. So they don't really hunt it. And I guess that maybe that led to its survival for so long. It's not good eating. But we are so conceited and full of ourselves. It doesn't exist until we discover it. I hope they never discover Bigfoot officially. I really do. I hope they never ever discover Bigfoot.
All right, Mickey. So I want a hat, a 5-piece suit. I want to have a fob watch on a chain, right? And I want to hold both of my lapels with my thumbs. You know what I'm saying? You know that stance that someone takes, and I want to denounce anything that I don't believe in.
Beautiful,
right?
And I want to let you.
And I want to have some kind of sway in research somewhere, and just it doesn't exist. I haven't seen one. That platypus thing, ridiculous. You just stitched it all together, didn't you? I mean, I know you, right? Oh, you mean it's actually real? Yeah. Well, I haven't seen one, and then they show him one. Yeah. Well, that could be anything.
Could be
You've heard those arguments, haven't you?
Oh, dude. Well, you know what? There was an argument recently that Graham Hancock had with Zahi Hawass. Now, Zahi Hawass used
classic.
to be. I know, right? Well, he used to be. He no longer is, but he used to be the Egyptian minister for antiquity,
That's
and
right.
he used to be head of Egyptology as well for all of Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watch a documentary about,
he closed the book, didn't he?
He closed all the books, my friend. If you watch any documentary in the last 20 years about Egypt, he'll be in it. And the pyramids were built with love, not slaves. The pyramids were built with love.
All the love.
Oh, and so Graham Hancock and Zahi Hawass start talking, right? Blah, 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 and they come to the contentious age of the Sphinx. 12, 13,000 years, whatever. And Zahi was, it's complete nonsense. There's no other civilization around this. And then Graham Hancock goes, well, what about Göbekli Tepe?
That's right.
And Zahi was, well, what do you mean? Well, Göbekli Tepe, that's as old as that. And Zahi Hawass turns to his colleague who's there with him. Have you heard of this, Göbekli Tepe? And Graham Hancock goes, it's just in Turkey. It's literally you can spit there from here.
It's just over the border there.
Yeah, no, Graham Hancock didn't say that. I'm saying that.
Paraphrasing.
And it's ayahuasca's never heard of it. No, this used to be the Minister for Antiquities in Egypt. That used to be the head of Egyptology in Egypt. An archaeologist of some renown, you'd think.
Mm-hmm.
And yet one of the greatest and most unsettling discoveries in archaeology of the last of the last 50 years.
Yeah.
Never heard of it. No, didn't hear about it. If it had happened in South America or in Asia somewhere in the middle of China, I go, well, look, maybe he didn't hear about it. I get it. That's his name.
It's neighbor's backyard. That's right.
Bob is having a barbecue. You can smell it. It's right there. He's grilling meat. You know he's grilling meat because you can see the smoke and you can smell it. No, never heard of it.
No, but he actively got so upset during that conversation.
Oh yeah.
He was red in the face. He was purely angry.
I'm astounded, Dave. Because the thing is, this, experts always say, "Oh, I'm the expert. Look at me, thumping my chest, and imploring the heavens." But no, you're not. You don't know anything at all. You know nothing. You're the loudest shouter in the room, but that's about it. That's all you have.
I watched a documentary the other day. It's an old one about UFOs and the unexplained. It might have been on the unexplained, but I couldn't be certain.
Sure.
Because I do watch so much. And they had the good old mainstay debunkers. They were all the ones that were on that you'd recognize straight away. Oh, that like the swamp gassy kind of guys, right? Migrating geese. And they came up, this was about the Mexican Air Force seeing those lights that were at their own altitude, not on the ground, seen through the clouds at their altitude, flying. Now, unless they were flying on the ground, right, then, you could sort of understand that the debunker, whose job in the show was purely there for no other purpose, the purpose they served was that if it made you a little uneasy thinking that aliens were there or UFOs were flying, you could just lean a little bit towards the debunker and go, yeah, well, that kind of makes sense, and now I don't have to worry about it.
What he said.
Yeah.
What he said.
Yeah, I don't believe in this nonsense. That's a Matrix quote. You know you don't believe in any of this nonsense, right? You just go about your day.
It's gold.
But what's really going to bake your noodle is, would you have broken the vase if I didn't say anything about it?
Yeah, I know that. It's just brilliant. That's see, this is the thing, though, right?
Where are the debunkers now, though, Mackie?
Well, they're looking for something else to debunk now. That's what they're doing. Got to find myself my cottage industry has dried up. Got to find myself something else not to believe in. Okay, let's do that. And this is look. I'm not upset with skeptics. I'm a skeptic myself, but that's what I'm upset. I'm upset with people who will immediately say, "No, this is nonsense. It can't be." Because everybody knows it can't be true.
That's right.
Everybody knows. It's extraordinary evidence. Blah, blah, blah. I find this really upsetting. I like scientists that go, you know what? I don't know, Mackie. I have no idea. Let's see where the data takes us. And again, I know I talk about this a lot. I do apologize. But on the Skinwalker Ranch, the data is going all over the shop. They're not giving up, though. Because the data is also showing them that there is something there which makes absolutely no sense in our, I guess, safe, explainable world, right? And they're still there. They're still trying to figure it out. And I think that's phenomenal. I think that's really, really great. And I wish every scientist approached it that way. I also understand that you have to make a living. I get it, guys. I get it. But maybe you should have done something else then. Okay, maybe you should have... Well, no, I'm serious. But because the thing is, there are vocations and then there are jobs. A vocation is something that is your calling, like a higher purpose, if you will. Okay, a doctor should see his job as a vocation, in my opinion. A teacher should see their job as a vocation. not a job or place to earn money, but to serve and to fulfill a calling that they have deep inside. That's my opinion. Okay, so that's the difference between vocation and just having a career or a job or whatever, right? And similarly, as a scientist, you should feel called to the sciences. You should feel called, and your ego shouldn't really matter. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, look at my reputation. Look all the things I know. Ho, 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 I published 5 million books. Ho, 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 ho. I know everything. Ho, ho. You want to know about anything? Read my books. and it's really disingenuous to have that kind of mindset, because the one thing, and I don't think we have to prove it anymore, Dave, but the one thing that is true, that I can say with absolute certainty, is that we have no idea. 98% of the universe is missing. Okay?
Turn into Socrates.
98%, buddy. Yeah, where is it? I don't know.
Probably another dimension.
It doesn't matter. The point is we have no idea.
Oh, maybe the math is wrong.
I know everything.
The only reason we can, from this point in the entire galaxy, presume to know what the entire universe should be looking like and where all the mass is, the original equation was in error anyway, because they believed that all the mass would be found inside the galaxy itself, not around the outer edge. And that's actually what we know now. Also, the life out in the outer bands, like I mentioned a little earlier, but there's not the same segue, this goes around the center faster than the middle. The middle doesn't move as fast as the exterior, which is opposite to what you would imagine if things look like they were going down the drain plug.
Yes.
Right? Because it gets meant to get faster as the diameter of the orbit gets smaller.
Yeah.
So anyway, with only 2 minutes left, Mackie, I don't know what we're going to do.
Well, look at the... yeah. Yes, we only have 2 minutes, but I do believe that this 1 hour is the perfect time format. It hopefully leaves our listeners wanting more. Hungry for more? Come and get it.
President!
Please, Surf wanted to be a radio talk show host. Well, why not? Just talk to the station staff here, or the station owners.
The dream was dashed? What happened? Always fleeced?
Yeah, there's always... I know for a fact there are slots available, if you really are. Unless you're a flat earther. In that case, it's probably not going to happen. You
just put actually, 3 people offside.
But you know what? I've listened to some of the other hosts, and no disrespect, but maybe flat earthers are not the worst anymore, you know? So I'm just saying. So, but there should be a spot.
Look, you start on Studio B, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get yourself up to speed. All you have to do is better speak without swearing.
Yeah.
And try to say things that are interesting, I think.
And put on accents like I do. I'm actually I've got a like Texas accent.
It's good.
And I'm from Texas. So, but it sounds like I'm not, right? That's not. I'm lying. I'm lying. What?
Yes.
I didn't say that. You can start as a guest on the roundtable. We're still the roundtables, right?
Yeah, that's how I started.
Yeah, just go on the roundtable. That's I didn't do anything. Dave called me. That's just my luck.
I said, we're going to show, Mackie. That's what I said.
Okay. What are we doing? I remember. I made notes. You want to see? I still have got the notes from the first show notes. That was just. I might actually go through them next time on Sunday. I don't know. Anyway.
On Sunday, I want us to tell some truths around how the show started.
I think we should.
You take us in.
Look. This has been Platos Cave. Thank you so much for allowing us into your lives. We really appreciate it. Donate if you can. Don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial button or whatever else. You have to control the radio waves. Don't go anywhere. Something will be here. And most of all, be safe. And I really mean that.